start with the very important subject of the possibility of foreign interference in the election. I was told you were contacted by Iran. They attempted to influence your vote. What methods did they use, and how did you know what was happening?
Well, thank you for asking that. The only way that I knew actually what was happening is strangely the FBI actually showed up at my door a few weeks ago to let me know. I didn't know. Really, they were contacting me through, I live in the state of Texas, through Texas phone numbers, basically asking me for information, trying to get information about who I was voting for, personal information. And so what I did immediately, just obviously because of what I used to do, is I block. I am a frequent user of the block feature on my phone, on social media, all of it. And if you know me, you know another way to get in contact with me. And so I immediately blocked that number and truly thought nothing of it until the FBI came to my door.
Tracy, what is so troublesome to me about this is you are former FBI, you're former CIA, you have years of training. You weren't sure. So how worried are you that people who don't have half the knowledge that you have will be deceived?
Yeah, and it's interesting because that whole campaign, I came to find out, was former intelligence officials. So people who had worked in the intelligence community who were somewhat public. And so the reality is I do not think the public in general is sure about what is going on, especially when you see these deep fake videos or these AI videos that the FBI did issue a warning against.
That's right.
They seem very, very real.
Very disturbing. Okay, let's stay on the topic of Iran. Saturday, the country's supreme leader said both the U.S. and Israel will, quote, undoubtedly receive a crushing response from Iran, end quote. Now, authorities warned that attack could come before the election. What actions are intelligence communities likely taking after receiving a threat like that?
So if we think about it, the 45th anniversary of the fall of the Shah is November 4th. And so that obviously is upon us. So I would think that it would happen then or just before then. I would imagine right now we do have the USS Abraham Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea. We do have bombers out there. We do have tankers. We do have destroyers. For us, really, it's about deterrence right now. I don't think the U.S. military or intelligence community, quite frankly, is looking to engage with Iran, rather we are trying to deter Iran from taking further action.
It's not just Iran, though. The FBI warning that these fake election videos, like you mentioned, they look so real, are circulating related to election security and ballot fraud. Some say that Russia is behind a few of them. How serious is that threat, and what could a country like Russia hope to gain here?
I mean, Russia has been, quite frankly, playing this game since really 2016 is when we saw them come onto the scene. They basically have what we call a troll farm, and that is what they've been doing. They are not necessarily, I think there's a misconception about what they are trying to do and what other foreign actors are trying to do. They are not trying to log into voting systems to change votes, if you will. Rather, they are trying to influence the outcome of the election. So I think there is a misconception about what they are trying to do, and we have to look at that differently as a public and look at these videos that they are creating. I mean, there are ways that we can try to spot some of these fake AI videos, but another thing that Iran is doing, which is a little bit different, is creating legitimate news websites and feeding news about the election that way, and that makes it really hard to spot.
Let's bring in China. Officials are worried about Russia and China. They could be attempting to commit cyber attacks on these absentee ballot websites after a plan against Georgia's system was stopped. Is it realistic to think every possible attack can be investigated and prevented here, Tracy?
I mean, in short, not to be the bearer of bad news, no. I mean, there is no way that it is physically possible for the FBI, for the CIA, for all members of the intelligence community, quite frankly, because we are relying on other countries to also give us information based on what they are seeing. We got very lucky in Georgia, quite frankly, and that attack really piqued a lot of people's interest quickly because it was over 500,000 entries trying to enter this website at a specific time. And that, quite frankly, is what crashed and tipped people off. The reality is we are not going to catch all of this.
That is very disturbing, but you're right. I think it's unavoidable at this point. I also want to ask you not just about these foreign actors you and I have been talking about, but domestic violence. How are agencies and police likely preparing differently this presidential election after what we saw on January 6th, 4 years ago?
They have to be preparing differently. The reality is back at that time, the FBI really didn't have a lot of units that investigated domestic terrorism, and Director Wray has.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.